Hey everybody, Josh RV Nerd here at Haylett RV of Coldwater, Michigan, dusting off some old footage and kind of updating some things right now. One of the questions I get with just incredible frequency, even still today, is which one is built better? A conventional, quote, stick and tin trailer or a laminated RV? And here's the thing, they're not built better, they're just built different. We're gonna start by just going over some of the more general variances between the two before we get into a little more nitty-gritty details. And as always, if you appreciate the extra information here to help you make an educated decision, definitely hit that subscribe button, join along, and seriously consider bringing your business here to our family at Haylett RV of Coldwater, Michigan. So to begin with, a conventionally constructed RV. The tongue-in-cheek phrase often applied to these in the industry is stick and tin construction because they have a wood skeleton and an aluminum sheeted skin. And, stick and tin is just an easier way to say than conventionally constructed. So here's the general benefit here. It is less expensive, but it typically weighs a little more. By contrast, when we move over to a laminated RV, where we start to pick up an aluminum skeleton that is all laminated and glued together with a block foam insulation in the walls instead of a conventional rolled, like residential style insulation, we tend to be lighter weight, but more money. And even there at the surface level, you see how they are exactly opposite. They are each better at different ways. But what I want to do is really kind of boil down some of the more finer details between the two, and maybe that will help you make the difference in understanding which one might be the little bit better fit for you, if one really even is a clear winner. And this one actually really surprises people, and I think it's actually almost the exact opposite of public perception. And that is in terms of serviceability and repairability. Interestingly, this type of trailer right here is far superior in that regard. And you're going, whoa, Jack. Wood can rot. Aluminum doesn't. Absolutely. I understand that. But here's the thing. This thing can be easily repaired. A single aluminum band on this wall, a wooden stud in the wall, a roll of fiberglass insulation can be pulled out, hand tucked, nailed in place, replaced, stapled up, whatever the case needs to be. You can work on this wall. It is far easier, far simpler, far faster, and vastly less expensive. And that's because this entire wall is just one big piece. It's just one solid chunk at this point. Once it's glued together, it's not really coming apart. So piece-wise, individual, localized repairs, very difficult, very expensive, and frankly, let's say there is a compromise in that wall to technically truly fix it and not do a localized scab patch on something, the whole wall's got to go. And that is not cheap easy. Not whatsoever. However, that doesn't mean that this isn't without its benefits. Because the thing to remember, it doesn't matter if you're looking at a trailer like this or a trailer like this one right here. You, folks at home, you are the single number one most important and influential factor in the lifespan and longevity of that RV. Stay on top of your care, maintenance, upkeep, routine things. And if you're not sure what to do with your RV, please take a moment to review our resources page at HaylettRV.com. I'll leave a link to it down here in the video description where you can check that out, where we provide folks, whether you bought from us or not, with care, maintenance, upkeep kind of guides. Because I don't care whether you bought from us or not. We want you to have a good experience. We want you to stay out of our service center. We want you to stay in the campgrounds, in your driveway, whatever the case may be. We don't want you to have to do work. And seriously, an ounce of prevention is absolutely worth a pound of cure on these things. So when it comes to things like being able to work on or repair the RV, the stick and tin RV is absolutely the winner. That being said, you do got to screw up pretty bad to mess up a laminated RV. So what about other factors like towability? That is an area where, without a doubt, a laminated RV will definitely reign supreme. But probably not necessarily for the reason you're thinking. I mentioned that this type of construction is typically lighter in weight, and that's certainly a factor when it comes to towing. But it is really, once you're up at highway speeds, it's not the most important factor. The weight of an RV really matters most when you are not moving and start moving, or when you are moving and want to stop moving. The inertia factor. When it comes to once you're on the road and moving, it's surface area and aerodynamics that come into play. And that smooth skin on this RV, or an RV like it back here, that is one of its greatest benefits when it comes to towing. And here's why. Because you look at them and you're like, they're both about the same size. They are in terms of physical dimensions. But in terms of aerodynamic drag and resistance, this type of skin is a nightmare. Think of all the nooks and crannies and ups and downs and ins and outs in that skin. Now imagine if you took that wavy skin, took a hammer or mallet or something and pounded it flat. Imagine how tall that RV would be. That's how the wind sees it, for lack of a better way. When you're going down the road, as your speed doubles, your wind resistance roughly squares. So these two campers going from 0 to 35, you'll never notice a bit of difference between towing them. You get up to highway speed, you start towing 55, 60, 65, you really start to see a difference in how they handle. Now I want to make a quick mention in terms of towing and going about suspension systems, because very rarely on a conventionally constructed camper do you see any sort of suspension enhancement. J-Fly did it for a little while, but nobody cared. And that's kind of, I think, a good sign of some of the differences in the buyer's mindset and the intentions and intended functions of the different types of RV construction. They kind of go with one another. Whereas like here on this White Hawk, you see they have that wide stance stability axle, or like on a Rockwood, you see that four-wheel independent torsion axle suspension system that they use. Well, those are more costly systems. And a laminated skin trailer costs more. It's a less price-sensitive trailer. It's a more feature-sensitive trailer. There's plenty of laminated RVs that have no suspension treatment. There are some rare instances of conventionally constructed RVs with suspension treatments, but you don't tend to see them. And part of the reason is because as the budget of this RV increases, the ability for a manufacturer to, for lack of a better phrase, and I don't mean this negatively, but hide the cost of those extra features and suspension and enhancements into the RV, it becomes much easier to do that. Whereas on a conventionally constructed camper, it's very obvious and it dings the price tag in a way that the average user of that camper probably is not benefiting from. So again, suspension really has nothing specifically to do with the construction of an RV, but they are very closely and often related. So if you're not going to be towing a lot, maybe the conventional camper is better for you. If you do plan on towing and going and being on the road quite a great deal, that's maybe a check in the box of this column over here. Another check in the box of the column over here is how easy it is to clean that thing. Because if you think about it, when it has less surface area, first of all, there's physically just less to clean. But a little further in depth, all these little nooks and crannies over here, that ain't fun to clean. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not going to stop me from camping, it's not going to stop me from choosing an RV, but that's it. Maybe at my age. Maybe like I don't have shoulder and elbow problems or whatever. Maybe you've got a back, a shoulder issue, a neck problem. Maybe that's a factor you want to consider. That's just one of the extra bits of information we like to share with you here at Haylett RV. Now, I also want to circle back a little bit to the little wood versus aluminum debate. Because, interestingly, with about 12 years of experience at the time of this filming, I've really found that when people ask, is it wood or aluminum, they only seem to be asking about the sidewalls. There's floors, front, rear walls, a roof that very often, most of the time, in the case of a laminated skin RV, is not also aluminum framed and or laminated. So it's like folks want to know if it's aluminum, but it's almost like they're trying to coax themselves, in a sense, to a false sense of security. Because they'll say, yeah, the wood is still in the roof, though. And most people go, oh, I mean, yeah, that's fine. But think about it, guys. All these big, full-time RV warranty luxury fifth wheels, almost all of them have a wood-studded roof with wood roof decking. Some might have, say, galvanized stamped steel roof trusses or something like that. But frankly, most of them are wood. And there's good reasons for it. Wood is an awesome insulator. It will help keep the hot air from bleeding out of the RV, or keep the cold air in the RV, although that mostly falls to the floor. But again, there's often wood in the floor, whereas aluminum is an amazing conductor of heat. So it just allows that to flow in and out very, very easily. So if you have a laminated roof, you often have small insulation gaps. Now, weirdly, there's a little bit of a side unintended benefit there, where if you are cold camping in an aluminum studded roof camper, the heat that bleeds through it will actually help organically melt some of the snow on the roof and keep that off there. So, depending on how you want to twist your head around that, it could be good, it could be bad. It depends on always what you're looking to accomplish, and that's really the whole point of this video. There's no clear winner. There's different winners in different categories, and they're really good at exactly opposite things. Neither is stronger, neither lasts longer. They just have exactly opposite benefits. So what about this Azdel stuff you keep hearing about? Doesn't that fix all these problems magically? That seems to be a lot of the public perception. I don't know much about campers, but I hear Azdel lasts longer or something like that, so I won't buy a camper without it. Okay, I understand how you get there. This is a very large purchase. I do think it would behoove you to look into things to really learn the positives and negatives both ways, because just like this type of construction versus conventional construction, there are pluses and minuses to even things like Azdel. It's an awesome material. I'm very happy to see it. I'd like to see it more. I'll tell you, I personally would like to see it used more throughout the industry. Absolutely. But it is not the best material for every application. People go, yeah, but it'll just stop that wall from falling apart. No, it won't. There's still bead foam. And frankly, almost every Azdel using RV only uses it under the skin. The interior wall panel is still wood, so even Azdel RVs are typically barely Azdel RVs. And it's an awesome material. Its primary benefit is that it shaves weight off the RV. It absolutely has some tertiary, secondary benefits, and we've talked about those in other videos. I'll try to leave a link to that in the video description as well to help you out. But Azdel alone is not the be-all, end-all. It is not the last line of defense. It's not the only thing you should worry about. What about the rest of the RV? What about how everything else is put together? You really want to take some time to learn those things too. I am not knocking Azdel. Awesome material. I hope we see more of it, but it does have some drawbacks. For instance, it does not have as good of a shear strength as Luan. And what that means is screw retention. So if you screw something into Azdel, you can rip it out more easily than wood. Wood is better at holding onto screws. Azdel also has a lower load bearing capacity. That's why you don't see it used in floors very much, because it will not hold as much weight. It'll tend to sag more easily than wood constructed floors. So there's different materials, different processes, different applications, good for different things. I think one of the things I like about Azdel is it'll give you a bigger buffer window in a laminated RV if you do experience water penetration, which is fancy dancy talk for a leak. It will give you a little more time to get that identified and corrected before you see long-term signature of any sort of damage. But as always, ounce of prevention, folks, worth a pound of cure. Now, there's certainly an argument to be made regarding which one looks better, conventional skin or a fiberglass skin. But the thing is, that's very subjective. I don't think you can really say this one looks better. I think most people will definitely agree this is visibly preferable versus a conventional skin. And that's what's really interesting here, is that perception has spurred the reintroduction of old stuff in the RV industry. There's this huge trend right now of what is old is new again. And frankly, even that is an old but new trend. The music that I listened to as a 90s kid was very largely just rehashed late 60s, 70s kind of music. And that trend's going through again. I'm hearing rehashed 80s music on the radio right now. But fashion, styles, everything comes and goes. You take an old thing that phased out for a reason, you replace it with something new. And that is where what I'm going to call hybrid constructed RVs have really kind of resurged in a major way and become exceptionally popular. And even though groups like Jayco, Wildwood to a limited extent offer a fiberglass swap upgrade for their skin in place of the standard corrugated skin, there is no better example of it than the black label package available from the Cherokee RV Group, which, wouldn't you know, we happen to carry here at Haylett RV. We've got quite the eye for good product. So for a long, long time, when we see fiberglass, we think aluminum. But the thing is, the one doesn't necessarily denote the other. It just often does. There's a correlation, but it's not one-to-one. And it surprises a lot of people to learn when you go to a black label package, or if you get the fiberglass skin upgrade on some of the other brands that I mentioned, you are not changing the core substructure of the RV. You are not magically swapping this to aluminum or anything like that. It is still a wood-studded product. It just has a fiberglass skin. That's why I call it a hybrid construction, because it really kind of combines the benefits of both methods. And frankly, it's a really smart option for a lot of people. It will fall into the budget line, kind of between a conventional camper and a laminated RV, because there is a little bit more material invested, and that's also another thing that surprises people. When we see fiberglass, we think lighter, but it's not always. Remember I said that early on. In the case of a hybrid constructed fiberglass skinned stick and tin travel trailer, you're actually adding weight. You're adding material, because you're not changing the wood skeleton. Instead, what you're doing is you're sticking onto that a fiberglass skin that has you can't just apply loose fiberglass to the wall. It'd be wavy, it'd look like garbage. You'd never buy that. Now, I wouldn't. I don't blame anybody else for thinking that way. But what you're actually doing is, usually in terms of a hybrid constructed camper, below the fiberglass is typically a dual-leaved offset Luan layer that's laminated. So the skin is laminated, but the structure is not. And that's a key difference right there. So we are getting a medium cost vector compared to the two primary construction methods. We are getting the ease of repairability, typically, of a common constructed RV, wood studded, where you can replace things individually as required. We are getting awesome hail resistance, and that's one of the major benefits. That's really why you see it in this segment, because that camper right there, it's awesome, but it can get pockmarked up something fierce from hail damage. Well, this kind of skin basically has like a suit of armor wrapped around it. You're literally applying effectively like a 3/8 sheet of plywood armor around that thing that just happens to have a nice glossy fiberglass skin to make you feel pretty. The other thing is, you're gaining this smoother towability from less wind resistance and towing that we talked about on laminated RVs. We're getting the easier cleaning. It's a really cool way to accomplish a lot of different things. And that's kind of the trick, is all these different construction methods all have their little ups and their little downs. And really, I think that's true of almost anything. It's true of any industry, any vehicle, the people you know. I've been told I know a lot about this business, but I also never shut up. Everything has its ups and downs. So it doesn't matter which one you're looking for. They both have benefits. If you're planning on doing a lot of towing, if you're weight sensitive, if you just really want the eye candy, get a laminated RV. You're gonna spend most of your time parked, you don't want to tow a lot, you can't justify the investment, get a conventional camper. But those factors alone shouldn't be the major make or break for you. There's so much more going on below the skin. Learn what's going on below the skin. Always, always, always. And I think that'll help you always find the RV that'll make you happier for the longest time. And helping you find your second camper the first time, it's what we're about here at Haylett RV. Notice we're willing to say the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. If you appreciate that kind of no-nonsense, transparent approach, definitely hit that subscribe button, follow along. We have a ton of good content always coming out. Give our team here at Haylett RV a call. Doesn't matter if you live near or far. They're on wheels. We can get them from here to there, and frankly, you can save a mint by cutting out factory shipping and picking your RV up here from Haylett RV directly. There's all kinds of different benefits to different things, whether it's skin, construction, roof, floors, and everything in between. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.